2024 Survey of Afro-Asian Literature, presented by Rhea Camela Tirica Frente. Hafiz Poetry. And for the introduction, Hafiz took traditional themes and with skill and artistry, arranged them in such a way that his work has never been bettered in Persian literature. He is credited with inventing the technique of combining two or more themes, sometimes incongruous ones, into harmonious whole that can be read literally or metaphorically. Learning objectives. First, to know who is Shan Abdil Hafiz Shirazi. Second, to find out his way of writing. And the third one is to have a great appreciation of his writings. And now let's proceed to lesson proper. Who is Shams al-Din Hafiz Shirazi, 1321 to 1389? Very little is known about Hafiz of Shiraz, particularly his early life. His primary medium of expression was the ghazal, a Persian poetic form which, like the English sonnet, has been widely used since the early Middle Ages. Hafiz was educated in the Arabic language, studied the Quran. Hafiz means one who has memorized the Quran. All the Muslim sciences taught at the time and literature. Hafiz is considered an incomparable master of the form. His works comprise 500 ghazals, 42 rubais, and a few qasidas, composed over a period of 50 years. Hafiz later worked as a teacher and a copyist of manuscripts. Once his own poems became recognized and admired, Hafiz acquired wealthy patrons. It appears likely that Hafiz lived some years at the court of Shah Mansur as an official poet. Hafiz did not compile his own poetry. Muhammad Gulandam, who also wrote a preface to his compilation, completed it in 813 AH or 1410 AD, some 21 to 22 years after Hafiz's death. Immediately after Hafiz's death, many stories, some of mythical proportion, were woven around it. The air of mystery has lingered to this day. Hafiz managed to become quite well educated, fluent in both Arabic and Persian. He memorized the Quran at an early age. Hafiz or Hafiz is a title given to those who have memorized the Quran. In his 60s, Hafiz composed more than half of his ghazals and taught a small circle of disciples. As tradition states, he began a 40-day night vigil at the age of 30. Longing to be united with his creator, upon completion of the vigil, he met his master Attar, who gave him a cup of wine to drink. Having drunk the wine, Hafiz attained cosmic consciousness or God realization. His poetry at this time talks with authority of a master who is united with God. Hafiz is said to have died sometime between 1389 and 1390, reputedly at the age of 69. He was buried in the Musalia Gardens of Shiraz on banks of his beloved Ruknabad River. Hafiz only composed when he was divinely inspired, and therefore he averaged only about 10 ghazals per year. His focus was to write poetry worthy of the beloved. To this day, Hafiz Divan poetry is used by many as for guidance and direction. Over the centuries, there have been many attempts to translate the subtitles of Hafiz Persian verse into English. By all accounts, even the best translations have been only partially successful. Some translators have translated Hafiz directly from the Persian. Others have adapted their poetry from the work of other translators. Quotes of Hafiz poetry. In his poetry, Hafiz inscribed undeniable truth and doubly, Hafiz has no peer by Goethe. There is as much sense in Hafiz as in Horace, and as much knowledge of the world Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Hafiz is highly esteemed by his countrymen, as Shakespeare by us, and deserves a serious consideration by J. Arbery. Hafiz defines you to show him or put him in a condition in fortune of ignoble. He fears nothing. He sees too far. He sees throughout. Such is the only man I wish to see or be by Emerson. Hafiz's work, consisting of more than 500 poems, is collected under the title of Divan. According to tradition, Hafiz prepared his own edition in about 1368. This manuscript, if it is existed, is not the source of the thousands of extemporaneous transcriptions. They seem to derive from a posthumous edition published by Hafiz friend Muhammad Gulandam. Conclusion. The enduring qualities of Hafiz's poetry are maintained in the first instance through his consummate use of imagery. Indeed, memorable lines and passages are recalled specifically from these associations. Although classical Persian poetry to an extent depended on specific, fixed of reference, the roses and nightingales that make their appearances in Hafiz's works originated in prototypes handed down by generations of versifiers. His poetic vision placed these stock images in fresh and distinctively personal literary settings. And these are the examples of Hafiz's poetry. Arise and fill a golden goblet. Bold souls. Drop of his heart's blood. Ghazal 1. Ghazal 2. Ghazal 3. And that's all. Thank you. For your activity, make your own simple poem that talks about your life as a student on this day that pandemic affects educational process and your motivation to face the new normal. At least 2 to 3 stanzas.